Hello, everybody, and welcome to Royalty in the Round, WrestleRoyalty.com's only video podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Sir Mitch, trying to keep this gaggle of fools all together. We've got Queen Kendra Bunyan. Say hi, Queen.
Hey.
We've got none other than Fang McFrost himself. So cool, he keeps freezing on us. Duke Dre.
That was good, everybody.
And of course, the bane of my existence, the worst Aussie accent impersonator since Shaquille O'Neal, Mr. Baron Botch. Say hi, Baron.
Yo, what up? I had to do a Dre impression. I'm sorry. It was begging to be done. Yo, what up, though?
Oh, dear. You see what I have to deal with, WR people. You see what I have to deal with this gaggle of idiots. But I digress. We've got a very interesting topic for you guys to discuss today. We're going to be discussing NXT stars that, for whatever reason, just don't seem to be getting the same level of success on the main roster. I mean, we could go on and on and on about this subject for hours on end, but we'll try not to. We'll try to keep it within 30 minutes for you guys, but we'll also try to keep it entertaining as we always do. So, right off the top of my head, I feel the need to discuss I was going to discuss Finn Balor first, but I think more recently we need to discuss, I'll pronounce this right, Baron Botch, Asuka, because...
And they said it couldn't be done.
I mean... After Raw debuting on the main roster, she had that 2-year undefeated streak in NXT. She debuted hot on the main roster, won the Royal Rumble, but then after WrestleMania, losing her streak to Charlotte, that horrifyingly awful program with Carmella, it just made them both look bad.
Horrible, he said.
I said horrifyingly awful. Horrifyingly awful. It was that bad, and it made them both look terrible. And they dragged in Ellsworth, even though we don't really want to talk about Ellsworth and all that going on. Yuck. Ellsworth. But it's just not a good situation for her. And now she's just playing second fiddle to Naomi on SmackDown Live. So, Queen, what do you reckon? What do you think? Can Asuka be rebuilt? What can happen here?
The problem with a streak is when it ends, they don't know what to do with the person. I hate to go back to the two biggest streaks in the industry being Goldberg and Taker at WrestleMania. And when both of those streaks died, it was a cluster and they never recovered. Now, I will continue to blame the same person I blame over and over and over again. I feel like a broken record. It all comes down to Vince not understanding the fans of today, not understanding the superstars of today, and not understanding the beauty that Triple H has built in NXT with these amazing young superstars. Now, she can come back from it, but that's a hard thing after, I'm not sure it'll happen with Vince still at the helm. He doesn't get how to use her. So in a lot of ways, while a lot of people love that streak, it came back and bit her on the bum.
No, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Duke Dre, what do you reckon? Is there anything that can be done to rebuild Asuka on the main roster, or?
Yeah, she can definitely be rebuilt. I mean, she's obviously just kind of floating around right now, but she hasn't been buried. She hasn't taken any losses where you're just sitting there scratching your head or anything like that. She's not Dana Brooke or Alicia Fox or nothing like that. She's just kind of, it's almost like they have her on the shelf and it's like they don't, like Kendra said, they don't know what to do with her right now. Right now you got the whole Becky Charlotte thing that's molten hot. So they can't really bring Asuka to the fold at the moment.
Right.
And like the Goldberg thing, it's hard to book somebody after they've lost this huge streak. It's like, where do you go from there? How do you rebuild them back up? Because they pretty much built their entire character around her being undefeated, and there wasn't like a backup plan. There wasn't a plan B. There wasn't, okay, how do we add depth to her character? How do we tell the story of her responding from taking that first loss? And they haven't been able to do that yet. They never really focused on that. It's like, okay, the streak is gone. We're going to put you in the back burner for now. We're going to get to other stuff. We'll get back to you later. And that's kind of what it feels like with Asuka. But I definitely think she can be rebuilt. I mean, I think the whole thing with Naomi right now, I'm guessing, is because they're going to introduce these women tag team titles, I guess. That's been rumored for the longest time. So if
that would be cool. That
could be a way to bring her back into the fold, to kind of build her back up. But we'll just have to see.
Yeah, that's true. But I think with the women's tag titles, I think chances are that the first chance will probably be Nia Jax and Tamina. I just have that really big feeling.
Move, though,
that it will be them.
Oh, yes, but at least they'll have good competition. Hopefully they'll have a team that shows. And those two are two who could hold their own against Tamina and Nia.
Yeah, especially in the athletic department.
Oh, yeah, true. And on your point, Dre, about developing her character further, not having a plan to develop her character after her streak ended. It seemed like the idea after her streak ended was for Asuka to put over Carmella. But the problem is they couldn't do it that any way convincingly, because Asuka and Carmella in a real life fight, Asuka would kill her. Yeah, all right. Asuka would kill Carmella in a shoot fight. So they couldn't put her over that way. So they had to come up with all those silly DQ and dirty finishes that just made them both look bad. So
yeah,
and as a result, Carmella wasn't built as this new great champion. She just floundered, and Asuka was damaged. So it just seems Botch, what do you reckon? Is there anything that can be done to help repair Asuka's career?
I mean, Asuka's main issue is that, as Dre said, and we actually said it in the royalty in the round that he hosted, which was amazing, by the way. But the one during the one that he hosted, we were talking about Asuka, and one of the things that we both agreed on is the fact that she had no character. Her character, as Dre said, was that she was undefeated. Other than that, that's it. Asuka's main issue is that she doesn't have mic skills. She has nothing to offer on the microphone. Some of that is language. In fact, heck, maybe it all is, because English is very difficult to pick up, and it's not just about words. It's about being able to put across subtlety and emotion and saying the words properly. And she clearly doesn't know how to do it, so she just kind of comes off as a screaming hyper mess when she tries to talk on the mic. And Vince can't be loving that, so I think that's a huge part of her problem. That, as Dre said, there is no character other than weird, angry individual. Like, that's kind of all there is, or weird, happy individual, but always weird. There's no balance to the character, really, any definition of it at all.
Well, I mean, there are some subtleties with her. I mean, whenever someone does the diva style slap to the face, she just smiles, and then that person's going to get killed. I mean, that's little things like that work. So she has so obviously she has an idea about that. But I think because she works the Japanese style, and Japanese style is less about verbiage and more about it's more of a physical language. Like, they tell the stories via the body language, as opposed to So that might be a disconnect as well. But on the other hand, Shinsuke Nakamura, even though he speaks English fairly well, but he has such a heavy accent, so he does this, those weird pauses and stutters and body movements and stuff in order to cut an entertaining promo. Maybe if Asuka should go to Shinsuke and say, "Hey, can you give me some pointers?" So.
But it's different. It's different with Shinsuke because Shinsuke has a character. Shinsuke has a personality and an aura, and for lack of a better term, he has a thing. Asuka doesn't have a thing except the little bit of a thing that she has.
I think she does. I think she does have a thing. I think the problem is it doesn't translate well on WWE TV. So
probably.
Do they still offer those classes? Those classes?
Yes.
They still offer those? I wonder if Asuka's in those, or if they're encouraging her to take those, because I think that would definitely be helpful for her.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that might be an idea.
Yeah, and I mean, we got to hit this too. Like, as far as the whole Carmella thing, we have to remember, and I say it often, but it has to be remembered. NXT and 205 are for us. NXT and 205 are for the rabid wrestling fans that want the work, that love the athleticism. We get heavy storyline with NXT, but it's all at the service of the work. Raw and SmackDown are not like either of those entities. Those are the show business. That's why you get the Carmella and the Ellsworth and all that stuff. That's what that's meant for. So the fact that we're upset about how the streak ended is exactly what they wanted. The streak ended in a horrible way. Everybody got angry. Twitter exploded. I thought it was hilarious. But you watched. You hated it, but you reacted and you watched. And that is what Vince wanted. And you gave it to him.
See, I'm more depressed by it than angry because I saw it coming. We all knew that when her streak ended, it was gonna suck because she didn't have a direction, and we knew she didn't have a direction. And I don't know how to. I don't want it to come off. And of course, if they were to do this, everyone would call it racist. But after this whole Naomi thing, I almost want to see what Asuka and Shinsuke could do together.
Ooh, I would love that.
Yeah.
They really could do some amazing stuff together. Yeah. And I mean, but of course, everybody would say, oh, you're just putting the two Japanese people together, blah, blah, blah. But I think their personalities would work, if you turned her heel again, could be amazing.
And that's the other thing. I don't really know what they're doing with Charlotte as far as her character. I'm not sure if she's a heel or face or what she is after attacking Ronda. And Becky seems like she's a face again after that hug with Charlotte. But turning Asuka heel would be another way to go to get her back into the fold. Having her feud with Charlotte and Becky, that'd be the perfect way to get her back in the mix.
Except everyone's heel right now.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I think
everyone's heel right now. I think it was you who said that. I don't know how many people have turned heel in the past 2 months.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, but
well, I think
we can't all be healed. They can't all be healed.
Well, the reason why everyone's turning heel is because heels are actually interesting. I mean, I don't want to rag on PG because everybody rags on PG, but I think it is true. Since the PG era, baby faces are so one-dimensional. They're so boring. They have no bloody edge to them. They need a little bit of edge. That's why that's why Becky Lynch got cheered so much. One of the reasons why Becky Lynch was cheered so much when they were trying to get her booed, because she had edge to her. So,
but that's all it takes. It just takes like the tween attitude of the Attitude Era, and it doesn't have to be risque. It doesn't have to be violent. It can just be tween. Well, heaven forbid they should just act like human beings, right?
Exactly.
Can't have that.
With shades of grey. I mean, look what's happening in the world of television right now. Most great TV shows, Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, Dexter, whatever you can think of, these Shameless, whatever, all these characters, all these wonderful characters in these shows, they're all shades of grey. You can't really call them good guy or bad guy. Sons of Anarchy, one of my favourite shows. That's a great example. So it's just, WWE, is really kind of behind as far as the pop culture, the zeitgeist at the minute, as when there's no such thing as just a straight goody good guy. So
they're behind the human condition. That's what it is. They're behind the human condition.
Yeah, right.
That's
exactly.
really what it is.
They're still, it's a PG show, and they're looking towards kids as well. Like you mentioned, it's not for us.
Yeah, that's true.
But they have been allowing blood. They have been allowing more edginess. We're not asking for them to be full on Attitude Era. We're asking them to be interesting. And I'm sorry, Mitch, I'm going to take your job for a moment, because when we're talking about interesting, we're not talking about Bobby Roode, who really needs to be interesting and is so good at being interesting, is being screwed as the Cena-esque, Hogan-esque face. And that's where I thought you were going when you skipped Balor. I thought you were going to Roode, because Roode is the epitome of heel. And I mean, I've called him Baby Trip since I first saw him. He is so reminiscent of some of the best of Triple H, and they're leaving him out to dry. Now, I have to say, I love Gable with Rude. Gable is such a bloody goober. He's a blast. He is so adorable. Oh, he's so cute. But Rude needs to turn heel, and I don't care how many too many heels there are on TV. Rude needs to turn full on Randy Orton breaking into your house heel, because he's good at it.
Yes, he is.
I mean, I came in, my first introduction to Bobby Roode was the whole don't fire EY crap. And that's when I fell in love with Roode, and that's when I fell in love with EY. And we need that Roode.
Yeah, even wrestles like a heel too.
Yeah, he does.
He wrestles like a heel.
His whole thing is like the theme song, the robe, the whole thing is just screaming egotistical
It's like Rick Rude or Mr. Perfect. Or,
very Rick Rude.
You know what I mean? It's, you know, along those lines. So.
Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah, Paul Orndorff, yeah.
Yeah, very Orndorff. Yeah, good. I agree. Very Orndorff.
Yeah, that one's on Vince. That one's definitely on Vince.
Oh, I blame Vince for all this
crap. Dre just criticized Vince McMahon? Hold the presses. Did Dre just criticize Vince McMahon? Holy cow.
The Oscar one I kind of understand because of the language barrier and things like that, and because of what Becky and Charlotte are doing right now. But Bobby Roode, I don't get that one at all. Like, if he's going to flounder, at least let him be a heel and flounder on his own. You know, he
won't flounder as a heel. That's the thing.
I'm just saying, if you're gonna let them fail, let it be on their own accord. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely agree with you. Though he would do great as a heel.
Amazing.
Yeah, there are so many that are just miscast. I mean, I don't mean to wreck your playhouse either, Mitch, but I mean, we could do this all night. Like, there's Tyler Breeze. I mean, that character is screaming out to be a heel character. He is very funny. I will give him that. He showed us comedy I didn't know he had. But the man can work his face off. He's a great heel. He had tremendous attitude. They gave him, I think, 10, 15 seconds or something to show his stuff on the main roster, and then not again. They gave up during that feud with Dolph Ziggler in record time. And from that moment forward, it's just been mostly curtains in terms of anything of any real interest until it got funny. But like the whole NXT thing, which is really what we're talking about, like the whole NXT gimmick with the selfie stick and the whole nine, like Vince just went, nah, never mind, forget that. That didn't happen. It just,
when someone like Jushin Thunder Liger, and this is not many people know this, when Liger made a deal to do his one match in WWE, he did it in NXT. They asked him, who do you want to work with? He picked Tyler Breeze. That's a true story.
It was so good, that match too. It was so good.
Yeah, it was.
My gosh, it was good.
When is a Liger match not good? The dude's 50 years old, but he can still work his face off.
No, but it takes.
Even though he can't do the stuff he could do. Even though he can't do stuff he did 20 years ago, he's still bloody good.
It takes two to tango, man. It wasn't.
He
is great.
I agree. I'm just pointing out, Liger can make anybody look good. And if Liger can make anybody look good, imagine how good he can make someone like Tyler Breeze, who is actually quite talented. Look.
He's right. That was a frighteningly good match. I loved that match. Absolutely loved it. And they took all this momentum and just went, never mind.
Can I make a point? You know what this all reminds me of, this situation with NXT and WWE. It kind of reminds me of the 80s. When you go back, you still had Mid-South, you still had the NWA, you still had, all these other different promotions, AWA. And when Vince purged all these guys, like he took Junkyard Dog from Mid-South, who was a beast in Mid-South, Jim Duggan, and he made him into cartoon characters in the WWF. Yeah. All for Hogan fodder or for whatever reason, And I think we're kind of getting that now, but except it's televised now. We see it. We didn't see it in the 80s. Right. We didn't know where these guys came from in the 80s. At least most people didn't. Right. And that's what we're getting now. We're getting guys that were top dog in different promotions or top dog in NXT. Vince brings them up. And unfortunately, not everybody can be a main eventer. There isn't enough spots for that. And so this is what we're getting. The roster's so loaded. And it was the same situation in the 80s. You had all these top acts in the WWF, but nobody was going to get past Hogan. Nobody was going to get past Andre or Savage or Jake Roberts or whoever. And so these guys are having to play second fiddle, and they're getting these cartoonish characters. And that's kind of what we're getting now with, Vince now. Basically.
Well, but when it came to Junkyard Dog and Jim Duggan, I mean, Jim Duggan never made more money than he did walking down to the ring with a 2x4. He didn't.
Well, a lot of even now, that's the same situation with most of these guys. But I mean, obviously, there's different options now where guys can make money. But But overall, the WWE is still a place to go if you want to make the most money.
But Duggan was over like Rover when he was on when he was in WWF at the time. He was over like Rover. Junkyard Dog was more over with the kids than Rey Mysterio ever dreamed of being.
Like, but look at his spot on the card though. He wasn't really he was a mid-carder or curtain jerker, along those lines.
I don't know about curtain jerker. I mean, he first of all, he made it onto the wrestling album and had a single come off of it that actually did something on the R&B charts, if you can believe it.
Yeah, that's true.
But he was. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I'm having trouble making it lining up because JYD was hugely successful in WWE. Was he a main eventer? No. But he was still hugely successful and made a metric ton of money. Ditto on Duggan. I mean, these guys made out like bandits, even if they didn't have the title. Truthfully, when you're dealing with a character like Duggan or dealing with JYD, they don't need the title. It's kind of like a Roddy Piper situation. They didn't need the title. They were so great at what they did, it didn't matter whether they were strapped or not. At least that's what I thought. I think they did quite well.
Okay, since you guys mentioned Duggan, I think we should send good wishes to him and his family. He was hospitalized the other day. We don't know what the issue is, but well wishes to him and his family. Hope he recovers. We don't want to be losing another legend so soon. So
no, we really don't.
We lost.
No. Yeah. Okay, on to something a bit more positive. Well, not positive, but on to a different subject entirely. Finn Balor. I mean, this is probably the biggest example you can give of somebody that's just, the dude was king on NXT. I mean, he was making apparently 6 figures on his merch sales alone in NXT. He was huge. The adults loved him. The kids loved him. Even to this day, like there's a store in my local shopping center, mall, as Americans call it, where that sells WWE merchandise. Every time I walk past it, every time I go in, I always see a kid walking out with a Finn Balor face mask. Every time that his parents have just bought for him. So he has obviously plenty of appeal. But ever since, he was injured after he won the Universal title, the Twizzler belt, for whatever reason, Vince just refuses to push him beyond the mid-card. Even though every time, there's even a hint of the Demon Balor appearance, which they don't do anywhere near often enough. It seems like they don't do it for the express purpose to hold him down, quite frankly, sometimes. It's just mind-boggling to see how far he's fallen. I don't get it, man. I mean, Duke Dre, I know you have some interesting thoughts on this, so I'll go to you first. What can be done for Finn Balor?
Well, I mean, you can always go back to the Bullet Club stuff. Obviously, that's probably the first choice. AJ doesn't have the title.
Club, but yeah,
AJ doesn't have the title no more. The club is just Gallows and Anderson are just kind of there right now, so you can always put them together, or you can, there's a lot you can do with that, and you have Nakamura over there on SmackDown as well, so you can kind of tie in the connection. And then the other one I suggested it's not very popular at all, but I've said it before.
Here we go.
You make him the face of 205 Live, merge 205 Live with Raw. I'm saying, hold on, you let these guys fight on Raw as well. You don't just seclude them and keep them on 205 Live. You showcase them on Raw like you did with Enzo, and you can go that route as well. But those would be my two suggestions, unless they're just gonna push him up the moon again. Those are my two options: the club or 205 Live. And just build them back up from there.
I would I'm sorry I'm taking over. My idea to put him back over is to give him another really good showing at the Royal Rumble, because he had a good showing at this past Royal Rumble, which is one of the few things that they've done with him all year. Give him a good run, at the Royal Rumble. Maybe even have him eliminated last, and then put the IC title on for a bit. That would be my suggestion to build him back up. But, To have him come out as Demon Balor at WrestleMania, win the IC title in the first match. That would be cool.
He hasn't even held the title since he dropped the Universal title, right? Since he forfeited it?
No, hasn't held anything. No.
I mean, they showcase him every week. He's on TV every week. He has matches. Yeah. He's just kind of stuck in the mud, kind of spinning. So.
Yeah, agreed.
That's the word of the day with a lot of these guys, directionless.
A lot of them, yeah. Yeah, and I think you're right I think you're right too. I completely agree about Finn. I mean, it almost felt like a Triple H edict, like when he debuted, like give him the Universal title, and then he got injured, and it's like, I don't know, maybe Vince thinks he's broken or something, which would make zero sense. I'm not sure, but it's like from that moment forward, he can't get ahead. It's very Shelton Benjamin in the way he keeps hitting the ceiling, and he just can't get any higher. It's really annoying because of how good he is.
Balor actually works. Shelton was phoning it in for so long. He just wasn't putting so much himself into. Yes, he is. I've never been a Balor fan or a Shelton Benjamin fan at all.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Sorry. I think he has so much potential, and he just pulls himself back, or there's some disconnect there. I want to love Shelton Benjamin, and he just falls flat for me.
I think the last time Shelton Benjamin was really put the effort in, and really looked like he was a future main eventer was that match on Raw a decade and a half ago against Shawn Michaels. I mean, that was an incredible match. I mean, that was the performance of his career. The stuff he did in that match with HBK. And I
agree.
That's when he peaked, and then he just got lazy, did nothing, left, did nothing in New Japan, did nothing in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, the Thea Vidal stuff.
Didn't help at all.
Amazing matches in Ring of Honor. I loved some of his Ring of Honor matches. Me, who's complaining about Benjamin, I really enjoyed some of his Ring of Honor matches.
Same. Yeah, very much the same.
I wasn't really watching ROH in that time, so I couldn't really be the best judge. But I was watching New Japan at that time, and he wasn't really doing much in New Japan. But maybe that's because he was focusing everything on Ring of Honor. But I don't know.
He's also had trouble with the mic forever and a day. It's just his thing is not the mic. He's kind of like Apollo Crews on the mic. He just kind of can't get it done.
I remember years ago when they were doing that, stuff with his mama that he was doing an Eddie Murphy. He was doing an Eddie Murphy impression for a bit, which was really bad.
Yes, he was. It wasn't him at all.
They started to do like a
that's like every racial stereotype in the book.
Yeah, they started to do like a Terrell Owens type of thing from when he was feuding with RVD after they got away from the mama stuff, but then they just kind of dropped it and they put him back with Charlie Haas, and that was into that. So.
But a lot of that kind of thing has happened with Shelton. Like they'll start things and then they'll go, never mind.
Yeah.
That's hardly his fault. I do kind of see what Kendra means, but that's not completely his fault.
He was Dolph Ziggler for a bit. They put him for a bit, and they pulled the rug out.
A bit?
A lot. But he also didn't show a lot at that point. He really felt like he was resting on, I have a great look. I'm fantastic in the ring, and I don't have to work as hard because of it. And he Randy Orton'd it. If we're going to do that, he rested on his laurels and he didn't work for it. He basically followed in Randy Orton's footsteps, and I still believe that Orton has had a lot more potential than he ever gave.
He had his issues with attitude issues.
Oh,
yeah,
Orton,
for sure.
Had.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah,
had.
For sure.
True.
Well, here's another subject that, not another subject, but here's a caveat to all of this. Out of all these guys, who do you think, if they decided to leave, who would have the most success? Because there are options for these guys. So obviously, New Japan, Ring of Honor. We've got the potential of of All Elite Wrestling. If you guys have been seeing the news lately, I mean, out of all these people, all right, Finn Balor. Okay, so obviously Finn Balor would be the first choice because he can go back to Japan and make swimming.
Nakamura would be the first choice.
Sasha Banks.
Nakamura. Nakamura. Well, Balor and Nakamura are the easy choices because they can go back to Japan, and Japan will bring them back with open arms, put them straight in the main event, and they wrestle in front of 40,000 people in Wrestle Kingdom and kill it. Mm-hmm. So that's an easy one. I mean, Balor and Nakamura are the easy ones. What about all these other people? I mean, what would Asuka happen? What would Tyler Breeze do if he left? Give me some options, guys.
Oh, Bailey, of course. Bailey would be.
I said Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks will do well.
Yeah, she would.
When she was NXT, man, she was a freaking prodigy, man. She was. NXT, man, she was, yeah.
Speaking of Bayley,
Sasha Banks would be incredible in Stardom.
She would.
I'm just going to say that right now. She would be incredible in Stardom in Japan, and she would. And if she could possibly get signed by ROH, she could be the face of Women of Honor for sure.
Easily.
Yeah.
I do find it kind of interesting because we're talking about NXT workers that haven't gotten over on the main roster. We haven't really said anything about Bayley, but to be honest with you, other than Bayley, I can't really think of any other NXT superstar that they've just out and out blown it with. And I'm not even sure they blew it with Bayley. I think Bayley just kind of blew it all by herself. So they seem to be doing better with the women than with the guys. Because Bayley just blew it. She did that all by herself, just by being boring. Yeah,
most of the women do seem to do fairly, like, Charlotte, obviously, Becky.
Yeah.
Nia Jax is having success, obviously.
Yeah.
Who else? I can't think. I'm trying to think of who else is.
Yeah, you mentioned Sasha.
Yeah.
Success from NXT.
Ember is just laying low, waiting for the right moment.
Yeah, I don't think she's been buried per se, but
not
I
at
think,
all.
Like kind of like with Asuka, they kind of have her on the back burner for now. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do for how they're going to bring her back in and whatnot. But I'm not going to go as far as she's buried.
That's another thing too. It's not just NXT people. They have the most stacked roster they've ever had, and because of that, there's so many people in the back burner. I mean, I'm sorry.
Doesn't know how to deal.
I know you don't want.
There's too many of them. There's just too much. They've hired too many people. There's no way you can feature all those people. You can't possibly do it. And I think Vince probably knows that. He's just trying to keep them from going someplace else.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much. And if recent trademark filings turn, not turn out to be true because they are true, but if they produce, something that we're all thinking they're going to produce,
they will.
People will walk. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this. I mention another site, another YouTube channel. There is a channel in the UK called Wrestle Talk TV. They're good people. We don't have a problem. We don't have a problem respecting the competition. You should check those guys out. Apparently, they have a source somewhere in the situation that claims that at least 2 people on WWE's main roster have already agreed in principle, because their contracts are coming up, have agreed in principle to sign up to whatever promotion the Elite are starting.
Isn't that in April?
Yeah, their stuff's coming up in April, and apparently
up in April, because I know they have those. Sometimes you can find that information on the internet as far as whose contracts are coming up. I've run across that before, but I don't remember where. But
well, apparently there are a bunch of contracts coming up in April in WWE. There's I think at least 10 people whose deals are coming up in WWE. And I think in January there's about 7 or 8 people in ROH whose deals are coming up. So,
yeah,
I know that. Let me think. Kazarian and Daniels have already said they've already told ROH they're not signing. So
they're not as young as they used to be. So I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if they don't go to the Elite's promotion, they might do something else, because I think Daniels and Kazarian are working in a stuntman world too on the side, so they might just do that. So who knows? They might call it a career. You never know.
Yeah.
And like I said, there are options for these guys now, so you never know. And like you said, I think Vince has the money now that he's pretty much pulling Eric Bischoff, Ted Turner. He's just signing all these guys to make sure that no other competition comes up. Just putting all these people on the contract, not doing anything with them, because he doesn't want anybody else to have them, because they might be able to do something with them and grow their company. So,
yeah, it's like he hears that they're hot and he just kind of signs them. I mean, I'm fairly certain that that's what's happened with Keith Lee, although they appear to finally be doing something with him, which excites me to absolutely no end.
It looks like he's about to beat Lars Sullivan coming up soon.
I know
that's what it looks like.
That will be delicious. I love Keith Lee. Love Keith Lee forever. Back when he was Kevin Payne, I was a Keith Lee
3 years ago, I believe. I think it was they were trying to bring him in with Kevin Owens at the time, trying to sign both of those guys.
They were.
But the Keith Lee deal fell through for whatever reason.
Yeah, they were. I remember that. Yeah, but there's him. There's no way Jose.
Well, I think No.
He got totally saddled with the worst Adam Rose-esque gimmick. What, because it worked so well the first time, we're gonna do it again? And Manny Garcia can work his face off. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
he can go, and he's a
Yeah.
great heel. I mean, he was such a great heel in CWF. I mean, you could see the smoke rising from the ring. He was so good at being arrogant and sniveling. Like,
And now he's
now he's just dancing boy. Like, huh?
ridiculous.
Way to play to his strengths, Vince. You know.
That's what I keep saying. He's so bloody out of touch.
He is, honestly.
Confidence, people, get him out of there.
But, you know, there was an interesting story that came up earlier. You know those weird surveys that they send out, WWE sends out? This is the weird thing. The latest one was, it makes it look like they're at least considering the idea that their product is not pleasing to the majority of people, because they're asking questions like, is WWE too, literally, they're asking questions, is WWE too corporate? The top spot holders, you know, have they not earned their place? Is WWE too geared towards children? Like, these were literally the questions that they asked in the fan survey, which is not something they do, because in the fan surveys they usually just cannon fodder. They're usually just silly stuff that they don't act on anyway. But although, to be fair, the people who answer they recruit to answer those questions are usually hardcore WWE fans that like anything they put on anyway. So it's unlikely to change anything.
I'm sorry.
I don't have a problem with it.
Go ahead.
No, so I don't have a problem with them gearing their product towards kids, because, I mean, I was a kid, you know, growing up watching wrestling. So,
Exactly.
you know, kids need something to watch too. I mean, I doubt kids are really watching New Japan or ROH or have access
No,
to watch it. So I don't have a problem with that at all. Just find the balance. You know, every now and then show a little blood. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be all the time. It doesn't have to be the Attitude Era or even the Ruthless Aggression Era. You know,
no one's saying that. No one's saying that.
Just have storylines. And I hate to bring this guy up because I know we all hate him, but even when Vince Russo was in the WWE, he had storylines for these guys. It's true though. They did not have stories in place for these guys, even the mid-carders.
If you like Jerry Springer, then yes, he had stories.
Well, but I'm just saying, they need to find somebody that's like, hey, we need to get these mid-carders.
No, he discovered Charlotte. Woo!
Yeah, that was stupid.
Sorry.
That was really dumb.
What a dumb thing to
Blair
say.
discovered Charlotte when he hated her.
When she was born. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very next, Vince.
Vince Russo better pray he never runs into Rick if Rick saw that. Bloody hell.
Oh, you know Rick saw that.
That was very uncalled for.
Very. No, I do know what you mean, Dre. I get it.
I know Rick's old and ill, but Rick will happily kill Vince Russo. He hates Russo with a passion more than anybody on earth. He will happily have a go.
He'll probably have to get in line.
He can leave his house without getting mauled.
Really? Yeah.
Well, Jim Cornette threatened to kill him about 100 times now, and I think he'd be happy to do it. He'd happily do the jail time just to get his hands on him.
He did make that threat, yeah. And Vince then filed a restraining order because he took it seriously.
Stack the jury with wrestling fans. They wouldn't convict him.
They'd acquit him in 2 minutes. You're right.
For real.
Just parade that pole in and no one would convict.
Yeah, bring the judge out on a forklift.
Forklift. Get the forklift and Judy Bagwell on.
Judy Bagwell.
She could be the court clerk.
Yeah.
Shut up, Ed.
Oh, dear. Well, I think we've covered everything that probably needs to be covered here. What do you guys reckon?
But wait.
Look out.
I actually want to comment on a team that got buried from day one when they came up and are actually appearing to get a push right now in the Ascension. They're looking better. They're being treated better. They're being treated. Shut up, Mitch. I see it over there. They're getting a push. They're at least looking. Yeah, they are. They've been on TV a lot more. They've been in better matches.
Or the Ascension.
The Ascension.
Well, they had that phase where he went over Connor and Gable, but they kind of went away from that though.
Are you sure you're not thinking of the Revival?
No, I'm thinking of Ascension. Revival, I'm just waiting for them to break again.
They should have been over at Survivor.
Even Botch is going to be the
Yeah,
Ascension
same.
has been doing more. And they've been looking. Oh, bite me. Let me have it. I see it. Trying to match my outfit. Come on.
Oh, me? They're just doing what they always do. Their bodies in a ring. They're taller colognes. That's really all that's happening. There's nothing going on with them.
Of the LOD.
Vince specifically gave up on Connor probably about 10 years ago. And it's just, they put makeup on him and gave him Victor and said, now go be the Road Warriors. And that's what they did in NXT. And they came to the main roster and no one cares. It's too late.
No one cares, but they've actually been doing stuff rather than just, being fodder for the fashion police.
But it doesn't matter. It's too
Actually,
late.
He's actually using them in a semi-direction for once, which they were like the first ones who were really screwed when they came up.
They were truly just like the vaudevillains. Vaudevillains, same thing.
Well, I heard Simon Gutch had some backstage issues, and that's kind of why that didn't work out. That's what
true. He has a reputation for working stiff because he has apparently he had a bad reputation for shooting sometimes because he has a MMA shoot fighting background. So he had a bad reputation for being a bit too stiff, and he had a bad reputation for confrontations backstage and that kind of thing. So
where was the MMA background against Sin Cara? I heard he got lit up pretty bad.
Yeah, he did. Sin Cara ate him.
Apparently,
ate him.
Sin Cara tried to start something, and Simon pretty much wiped the floor with them in no time. So, yeah.
I heard the opposite.
I heard the opposite. Yeah. It wasn't that.
Something, and Sin Cara finished it.
Sin Cara ate him.
Oh, okay.
With fava beans and an iced Chianti.
Exactly.
Right, I must have heard it wrong.
Yeah, no, it was the opposite, but very funny either way.
Yeah, true. Well, neither one of those guys you'd think. Oh, never mind. Oh, well.
Yeah, true. I see what you're saying. Yeah, it took a second, but I get it.
Yeah. Well, should we wrap this up? Because I think we've covered just about everything. What do you guys reckon?
Have we missed anybody other than... I can't think of anybody that WWE has messed up. I can think of others that have messed themselves up, but nobody that WWE has really
We've
killed.
mentioned the revival, but we've mentioned the revival a bit, but I don't think that's too depressing to talk about, so...
Well, but
they should have went over at Survivor Series. I don't know why they didn't go over.
Because they're boring. Because they're boring.
Boring.
They're really good wrestlers, though, man. Them dudes can work, though.
They are, but they're the Minnesota Wrecking Crew Mach 2. We did that already. I think that's what the issue is. They are good, though. I agree with you. They are good in the ring.
Already, but we've done a lot of these things already.
They remind me of that. They remind me of Arn Anderson and Tully Blanche in the
Brainbusters.
Exactly.
Yeah, Minnesota Wrecking Crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much the same thing.
All right, guys. No, this has been Royalty in the Round. NXT Burial Edition, I guess you can call it. I'm Sir Mitch. That's Queen Kendra. Duke Dre. Baron Botch. Two Sweet Us. See you guys next time.